If you're having suicidal thoughts or feelings or feel like you have no hope, please call 988. There, you can talk to someone who not only cares about your story, but cares about you. Please reach out today. Thomas P. Murphy once said, "Minutes are worth more than money. Spend them wisely." At Minutes Wisely, we take that to heart. Our mission is to decrease veteran suicide by providing life-changing experiences for veterans, first responders, and Gold Star families. We believe that we can make a lasting impact by rekindling a sense of purpose and fostering community through sponsored tickets to sporting events. These experiences are not just about the game, they're about the moments that can change lives. A simple sporting event can boost joy and instill a sense of renewed hope and purpose for those who have served. Join us in making a difference, become a moment maker, and empower a veteran with rediscovered hope. Visit minuteswisely.com for more information and to get involved. Together, we can make every moment count.
All right. Welcome back to another episode of TSP. Um, our format in 2026 is changing a little bit. I'm venturing off on my own while my co-host Andrew Farr, he started his own podcast with another Marine. And well, he's a Marine. I'm a sailor. We're going to do a little things different in 2026. Before we get started, I just want to give you guys what the concept of Minutes Wisely is. Minutes Wisely is a nonprofit I started 4 years ago. And what I do is I send veterans, first responders, and Gold Star family members on pretty awesome events. I actually have season tickets to 2 NFL teams, the Detroit Lions and the Tennessee Titans. Every Sunday during football season, there's a veteran or a first responder or a Gold Star family member in our seats. We also done other things like this year alone, we sent a Gold Star mom and her little girl to the zoo. They love the zoo, so we sent them to the zoo. They had little backstage passes at the zoo, so they got to see stuff that normal people didn't get to see. We hook them up. When we send them on these events, it's basically a first class event, so it's my way of letting veterans know. A lot of veterans are going through hard times, right? So it's my way of showing them, like, life is great, man. Like, if and I'm hoping, like, if I send somebody to this first class event, it gives them the motivation to get their motors running a little bit, like, hey, that was pretty awesome, man. Life is pretty awesome. And so we also uh what else do we do? A Nashville Sounds outing. We sent a little boy who's the son of a Army soldier. He's 9 years old. He has a living with a brain tumor. He had his tumor removed in March of this year. His first doctor's appointment back, the tumor had already started growing back. So my nonprofit sent him and his family to Walt Disney World for an entire week. It was our way of giving the family a week break so they can kinda get a little bit of normalcy back in their life. That little boy just started a very aggressive treatment at St. Jude in Memphis, Tennessee. Um, they just got back with some news. They haven't broke the news out, so I'm assuming it's not the greatest news, but I'm waiting to hear back, see how they're doing. We also sent a little boy who's the son of a sailor. uh He has terminal cancer. He's 13 years old. We sent him to Detroit, and he was sworn in 3 different police departments, and we took him to a Detroit Lions game on the next Sunday. So that's the kind of things we do with this podcast. So whatever money we generate goes right back into the nonprofit and along with some fundraisers. And so that's what Minutes Wisely does. Just give you guys a little background.
That's awesome.
Yeah. It's very rewarding. When I send somebody on an event, the only thing I ask for, and like, we'll pay for the entire event. Like, say, because you go somewhere and parking, even if you have free tickets, you're going to spend $250 easy, parking and drinks and food. Man, if they can't afford it, we'll pay for the whole entire evening for them. So it's the only thing we ask in return is photos so we can
Yep.
throw it on social media and say, hey, this is what we're doing.
Yeah.
It's pretty awesome, man. So, Bill and David, who wants to go first? Who wants to introduce themselves first?
Dave, go ahead.
Right.
Thank you, Bill. Appreciate it. All right. Well, so yeah. So yes, things that you have, this will be an Army specific podcast because both Bill and I are retired Army officers. Our path is a little bit different, right? So for me, I born and raised in Silver Spring, Maryland. So inside the Beltway. Um, and I was able to go to West Point. So I graduated West Point in 1996. So for me, kind of growing up, you know, I was adopted, but I was also kind of in the DC area. And so being close to, I guess, kind of the center of gravity, if you will, I was able to like study. This is back when you like go to libraries and you like take out books and stuff and study for everything else and for your reports and all that. I would do that at the Library of Congress, right? I'd go from Silver Spring, Maryland, take the train or whatever down there and stuff and do that. And so I was always around kind of like, you know, the symbols of democracy and those things, right? My father, he did his 4 years kind of in the Vietnam world or Vietnam years. He was in Germany, and I'll get to that in a little bit because I got a strong tie to Germany as well. But I wasn't really like one of those guys who's like got a strong military family. Although a lot of men in my family have served in the military. So when I got the opportunity to go to West Point, I got an early admission. So around this time, I knew I was going, and so my second semester of high school I call it like just getting ready to go to West Point. I didn't step into that school until our day. So that's reception day. So parents, we drove up from DC, and you're sitting in the auditorium, and this cadet in the red sash goes, "All right, parents, you got 30 minutes to say goodbye, to your kids. You go this way, new cadets go that way," and it's just like, boom, you were just in it. And so a lot of people ask me, it's like, what was the motivation behind it? And I think a lot of it was just probably partially the challenge. And I think the what you learn about military service and the importance of that was reinforced what I learned there. Super competitive, very hyper type A personality. But when I graduated, or actually my sophomore year, that was the time where you're trying to figure out what branch that you wanted to go to, right? So you could do, infantry, artillery, armor, medical, all those different things. Well, there, everything is rank ordered. So military, academic, and physical. So how you doing your PT test, how you doing your test in classes, how you doing your military training and all those things. That all racks and stacked to there's the top cadet all the way down to the last cadet. And so that first cadet can choose whatever branch it's available to him or her, and it goes down the line. I fell in love with field artillery because I didn't want to be, I wasn't like a ranger, I wanted to embrace the suck kind of guy, but I also wanted to be part of the fight if everything kind of wanted to happen, right? And so I think I fell in love with that branch. And so I was able to, my first duty station was in Germany, and I was in the 155 self-propelled artillery world. And right off the bat, I went to Bosnia, and then I went to Kosovo. And so I'm a second lieutenant, first lieutenant, shooting, moving, and communicating, doing the things that I learned in that world. Then I went back to Fort Sill, Oklahoma, went to the advanced course. And then from there, that's when Bill and I kind of connected. So I was a company commander for artillery called battery commander. So I was a battery commander, and then he was my battalion commander. So I'll let him kind of talk about that. We went to Iraq during the March 2003 initial invasion of Iraq, or Operation Iraqi Freedom. From there, I switched over. About my 8-year mark, I had this realization that we were probably going to be kinetic for a while. And so what marketable skill could I have when I get out of the military as being, hey, I put steel on target. Not to say that, our skills and stuff aren't transferable. That's something we'll talk about. But, I was able to transition into the acquisition corps. And so that's where the Army has like project management and sourcing and procurement of all like the Army's life cycle of equipment. So I got stationed here at Columbus, Ohio, where I currently am right now. Went back to Germany, did another Iraq, did in Afghanistan, and then I went to Fort Jackson, South Carolina, and then finally Shaw Air Force Base, where I retired in 2017. And so as part of that, I was able to get hired on into JP Morgan Chase. And so that's one of the things we'll also talk about is, understanding the skills that you acquired in military, over your military lifetime, those things that you have in your rucksack, they are transferable into damn near any organization or industry. You just have to have that decoder ring in terms of how you articulate with those skills that you've acquired and how that's going to help that organization. So I've been retired about 8 years now, and so I'm living the corporate life and everything else. And so my wife and I, she's German. I met her in Germany, so we got married at 9/9/99. So that's an anniversary date I cannot and should not forget. So yeah, so that's it. Now I know a little long there, but Bill, I'll pass it
Yeah.
off to you.
Okay. Well, David and I, we've talked about this before. We couldn't be more different in our coming up, in our education, or any of those other kind of things. I grew up living around the world. My dad was a retired Air Force Chief Master Sergeant. He passed away about a year ago, but Dad spent 29 years in the Air Force. So Philippine Islands, Clark Air Force Base back in the 60s, England when it was really popular back in the early 70s, stationed there, even stationed at Shaw Air Force Base. In fact, that's where I went to high school because Dad was stationed there when I was in high school. England Air Force Base in Alexandria, Louisiana. So you name it, kind of been all over the world with him. And so I grew up in this military family where patriotism was just part of life. You didn't even think about it. It was just the way that it was. So here it is now. I graduate from high school and I go off to college. They're just a little bit outside of Knoxville, Tennessee. And my first semester there, I was not a cadet. I was not in ROTC. I didn't do any of those kind of things, but I had taken a class called Military History of the United States, and it was being taught by an Army captain. And this is the late 70s. And so I enjoyed the class. So the next semester, I took a class called U.S. and International Contemporary Relations, being taught by an Army major. Well, the major had done his homework, and he comes to me and he goes, "Hey, you've taken this class. You're now in my class. What are you going to do when you graduate from college?" And I really did not have a good answer to that question. And he said, "I can promise you something that no one else on this entire campus can promise, and that is a job as a second lieutenant in the United States Army the day you graduate. Sign here." So I signed up, and because I had missed the whole first year of the ROTC program, I had to go to basic training. So I went to basic training that summer and came back and stepped in as a second-year cadet. And, wound up joining the Army as a second lieutenant, thinking I'd do my 3 years and get out. But after about a year and a half, I just loved it. I loved the camaraderie. I loved the sting. My first assignment was Germany. We were this is 1982, 83, and my unit is about 30 minutes off the Fulda Gap, which is where everybody believed that the East German and Russian hordes were going to come through. And like David, field artillery, 155, our cannons could range the Fulda Gap from our motor pool. So we were that's where we were. And I love that sense of being part of something that was bigger than yourself. So I wound up staying in the Army for 28 years, made the trip down to Panama in 1989, made the trip to Desert Shield, Desert Storm in 90 and 91, along with David, OIF 1 in 2003 as a battalion commander, with David as one of my subordinate commanders, because I had 4 subordinate commanders. He was one of those. And then after leaving command and getting promoted again, I wound up back over there, stationed in Kuwait at Camp Arifjan as the chief of fires and part-time chief of operations for 3rd Army as a colonel. And I've now been retired 16 years, so I got out and did the corporate thing, kind of like David did. So I did corporate work, and then one day I decided that I hated corporate work, and so I went and did what I had always planned on doing, and I got my teaching license, and I taught American history in the public schools for several years, and I love doing it because you see that better idea from Ford light bulb come on over the kids' heads whenever you explain to them how the country works, or at least it's supposed to work. It doesn't
Right.
always it doesn't always follow those lines. But I did that for several years, and now I'm completely retired. I do volunteer work. In fact, this Saturday, I'm going out to the National Cemetery in Fort Smith, Arkansas, and helping lay wreaths at the cemetery. Going Friday night to help make the wreaths over at the convention center that's across the street from the cemetery. Member of the local VFW. I do some classes over at the local homeless shelter on how to go find a job, and so now that's what I do. That's kind of how I give back, and of course, I volunteer at the church that I attend. So that's
Yeah.
that's kind of where I'm at.
Awesome. So is there any rivalry in between like the private school guys and the West Pointers?
Rivalry?
You know,
Well, go ahead, Dave.
yeah,
You
that's interesting. I think, I think there was a study that's done. So like, when, the West Point grad and then a non, West Point commissioning source, when they're the second lieutenants, the West Point grad will have like an advantage for about 2 to 3 years, and it kind of dissipates and evens out around kind of like '03 at the captain, 4, 5, 6 year level. Um, I think, to me, the feeling of like the service academies in terms of like how that benefits you in your military career, I think is probably waned considerably over the last 50 plus years. I don't think that's as much of a consideration. But I think it's still kind of like the inner school stuff, Army, Navy, some of those different things. You'll see those pop up.
Yeah.
But, I'm trying to think when I was in Iraq or Afghanistan, I didn't remember seeing too many like Navy guys around there. So I don't know where they were. I don't remember the Air Force. I don't know. I'm just saying.
Yeah. Well, it's a very prestigious school, so
So they always say it's a good place to be from, but not a good place to be.
yeah,
No,
I can
I'm fighting
imagine.
international that, but
I,
yeah.
yeah, that's quite a commitment, man. 4 years.
Yeah, it's
Uh,
4 years plus on the backside, you have what, 5 or 6 year commitment afterwards and a couple of years
yeah,
on
yeah. I'm
IRR.
just talking about
Yeah.
in the 4 years of military school. I mean, I think that would be pretty tough.
Yeah, it was pretty intense. It really was. And I don't even know if I shared this story with Billy, is that like I said, when it was around like December, January or senior year when I got accepted in West Point kind of early. And then I applied to other schools, but like I was just kind of like half doing like somewhere deep in my young brain was like, that's probably the place you need to go to and give it a shot. But we're in like English class and we had this substitute teacher, and the kids were talking about what schools that they're going to go to, and I'm going to go to University of Maryland, I'm going to wherever. And this girl blurted out, she said, David's going to go to West Point. And then the teacher said, he's not going to make it. And I was like, challenge accepted. And
Right.
so it was like, it was one of those innocent things that kind of like propels you to kind of get you kind of through that. It was almost like I didn't want to like go back home, kind of show that I failed, right? So maybe walking into it was probably a certain reason why you're doing it. But kind of once you're there, it's like back to what you're in the military, you're doing a 12-mile ruck march or whatever it is. You got to dig deep, right? You got to find out like why you're doing it and kind of move forward and stuff. So, but like I said, I'm glad that's in the rear view. But I still encourage people and their families to consider that as an option, because that's something that we'll always need, regardless of how you get it in military service.
Yeah. So, just to be transparent here, I served in the United States Navy. Absolutely love the Navy. But I have a lot. The only military tattoo that I have is a United States Army tattoo,
Yeah.
and that's
Okay.
because
All right.
my grandfather served in World War II. He served in the Old Hickory 30th Division, and he fought Hitler's SS division not once but twice and beat him both times. So, out of respect for that man, I will not put a Navy tattoo on me. I couldn't hold a candle to what that man did or what his people did, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah. Man.
Yeah. So, all my friends make fun of me because I have an Army tattoo, but it's all right. It's my grandpa.
Yeah.
What ranks did you guys retire as?
I retired as a colonel, 06.
And I was an 05, so lieutenant colonel.
That's pretty impressive, man. People jump out of their chairs when you walk in a room.
Well, they used to. They don't anymore.
Right.
In fact, I was talking to some guys here a couple of weeks ago that said that, and that's what we were talking about. And I told them, I said, I used to walk into the room and everybody stood at attention and got quiet and waited for me to say at ease and sit down. Doesn't happen anymore. And although David said he's been retired 8 years, I've been retired, at the end of this month, it'll be 16. And so you get used to it going away, but you never forget that feeling, of kind of how it was. So, but I mean, here not too long ago, I went over to the church one morning and I decided I was going to weed eat the flower beds out in front of the church. Got there about 6:30 in the morning and I weed eated and now it's like 8:30. This is back in August where it's hotter than 8 monkeys out here. And the pastor of the church drove up and said, "What are you doing?" And I said, "I'm humbling myself." Because I was out there by myself and I had 2 big piles, that I had to get rid of weeds that I'd pulled out of the flower bed. There's nobody else out there helping me. I'm drenched, I'm soaking wet, from the sweat and everything else, but I was humbling myself.
Yeah, that's awesome. So how'd you guys stay motivated when you were deployed away from family?
If you don't mind, Dave, I'll jump in here. We
All right.
we would for me, and for the vast majority of the unit that I commanded, I I think that I had instilled in the unit this idea that we were bigger, we were badder than anything else that was out there. 1, and 2, it was our responsibility to meet the non-negotiable contract with the American people to fight and win the nation's wars because there was nobody else there to do it. It was us. And so you stay motivated by being part of something that's bigger than yourself. And that's
Yes.
kind of how I felt about being a soldier. Was I loved, and that's one of the things I miss more than anything else, is that camaraderie of being part of something that is bigger than yourself. In the civilian world, you don't see a lot of that.
Correct.
And when you're on the battlefield in Iraq, I mean, you watch these football movies where the coach says, "We're going to war." No, you're not.
Yes.
I hate that phrase more than anything in those movies where some athletic team says, "We're going to war." Yeah. Come grab your weapon and go with me. I'll show you what it looks like. That's kind of my thought. So
So what type of advice would you give a younger soldier who is facing difficult situation or feeling insecure about their capabilities?
you've got,
You know,
go
go
ahead,
Bill.
Dave. I was going to say, you got other people around you. You've got if you're the young soldier, you've got the sergeant. If you're the young lieutenant, you've got the captain around you that you can look to for advice and help. And I mean, and even if you're the more senior person like myself, and when we were in Iraq, I mean, I listened to my subordinate commanders. I asked their opinions, and none of them were really afraid to give it to me. They were respectful with it, but I mean, I like to tell this story. Dave knows the one I'm going to tell, but our unit got ordered to attack a target one night, and it was too far away for us to range with our weapon system. So we had to move up. And Dave is the lead of the unit. His battery is in front of everything, and he's only about 2 or 3 vehicles back from the very lead of the entire battalion. And I came up, I was about 2 or 3 kilometers behind him, and we came into this urban area, and there were people running around the urban area wearing the thobes, the long robes and that kind of stuff. They're waving Kalashnikovs, they're waving AK-47s. And I picked up my hand mic and I called him on the radio and I said, "Hey, you need to go to Weapons Red right now." And the only thing he said back was, way ahead of you. There was no more training necessary. He didn't need to ask my permission to put his unit at weapons red. All he had to do is surmise the situation for himself, and he did those things. So when you have that kind of trust out there, then you know that, and the younger soldiers see it, the younger officers see it, the younger privates, they see it too. So, Dave?
Yeah, no, I think the only thing, a couple things I'd add to that in terms of like, kind of what I tell my younger self, or what in terms of young soldiers or folks that are coming up is, back to that idea of a village, a support network, kind of your own board of directors. And, when we're young, we think we know everything, but it's also helpful to have the people around us that can guide us to that. So that's one of them. The other one is, I think it's one of the lessons I've learned kind of looking back in my career is, you know, we do a good job of doing the job, but not, advocating for ourselves. And so I think, there's that line between, self-promoting, but also letting people know where you want to go and what they can do to help you get there, right? So bring them on board for that journey. So I think it's one of those, I should have done something, I should have told somebody. And it's like, use that opportunity to think about what you want and how you want to get there. And, take advantage of the resources that you have around you, right? A lot harder said than done. And then the last thing I'll say is, back to, in terms of resiliency and battle buddies. I've read, the story came to mind. I remember we went to the field, and I'm trying to remember exactly where. I think it was before us getting ready to go to Iraq, and it was our mess sergeant. So we had like this mobile kitchen trailer, and it was the E6 sergeant that was in charge of that. And every time we'd go to the field, he'd be good the first couple of days, but then day 3, 4, and 5, you could tell the guy was detoxing from alcohol and all those different things, right? And at the time, I was looking at it going, wow, that guy's, sucks to be him. That's what it is. Versus, how do I pull him aside or find a way to make sure you get him on the right track or get him the help and resources, right? So, also be that eyes and ears for the people around you, because, we'll probably talk about some of the other philanthropic things, but, 22 veterans are still killing themselves every day, right? So
Right.
the least we can do is start checking in with each other and doing more than just talking, actually making that call and making that effort, and that can make a world of difference.
Absolutely.
Well, and I'll tell you that civilians, somebody who's never put on the uniform, who has never grabbed a weapon, who has never stood on the ramparts, doesn't understand that. They don't understand what it's like. I hear, I was kind of disparaging about listening to a football coach saying we're going to war. I also, one of my pet peeves is I don't like to hear other people go, well, my parent was in the military or my sibling was in the military, so I know all about the military. No, you don't. No, you don't. Until you've been there and done that, I don't. You don't. You can hear the story, but you don't know what it's like to never take your boots off when you're asleep. Because if the mortar attack starts when you're asleep, you don't want to be hunting for your boots. You've never slept in your flak jacket. 40 straight days on MREs. Don't want to hear it. 12 days in your chemical suit. 12 straight days in your chemical suit, to the point where when you take it off, it smells so bad that you're never going to put it on. So you just burn the thing.
Right.
So I just, civilians don't get what you go through. And the fact that a veteran, uh, Ronald Reagan, I'm going to paraphrase Ronald Reagan. He said, some people live their entire life wondering if they made a difference. Veterans don't have that problem.
Yes.
It's that simple. And the civilian doesn't understand that. They don't understand the dedication. They don't understand that we realize what freedom costs, because we've seen it up close and personal, even if you never served on a battlefield, even if you rode around on a ship, where maybe it's a little cleaner than what Dave and I had to do.
Hey, David, was that a shot?
That was yeah, but we'll let that slide. We'll let that one slide.
Yeah. Yeah, but yeah, I mean, they just don't, they don't know. I mean, they can't, even in training, go to airborne school, air assault school, those kind of things, go to ranger school. They just they don't know. They don't know. Even training exercises. I mean, David and I spent a month at White Sands Missile Range before we went to Iraq training. I mean, does anybody think it's fun to run around in the middle of the desert, down at White Sands, New Mexico? No, it's not easy. It's really cold at night. It's really hot during the daytime, you know. So
I hear you. And shout out to President Reagan. He was my commander in chief. So I absolutely love that guy.
great.
Takes a side. I liked him because that was my personal connection to him. Right. He sent me to the Bering Sea in January to chase around Russians. So that's my claim to fame. And then a few months, like 6 months later, they tore down the wall. So that's my little bit of history. Yeah, it was a good time. So, what lessons did you learn in the military that you believe everyone should apply to their daily lives?
Well, I'll kick this one off, and I'll let Bill also opine. Right. I think, kind of broadly speaking, I think just start talking about regardless if you deployed or not or where you served, you're still a veteran. I think you still get a basic toolkit of skills and capabilities I call veteran superpowers that people bring to the corporate or civilian world, which is on time, you know teamwork, respect of others, not being a pain. A bit, it just goes on in terms of like those skills and capabilities. What I've observed in the corporate side is it's, when we're dealing with problem people, they're spending like with Pareto principle, you spending 80% on 20% of 20% of, and the same thing when they're trying to hire and bring someone on, that 80% of being on time and how to be a team player and how to learn different skills and how to apply them, how to delegate and how to task other people to do. That's the stuff that they can't really teach and train how to do. They can teach how to do your job, but those are those superpowers that they bring to the table. So that's one of the main things I think veterans or transitioning folks should take into account is you've got that basic set that you've been given and trained and honed in your military service, but there's also that technical piece that you've also acquired that you also can bring into the corporate world as well. So Bill?
Dave and I are clearly parallel on this one and right in sync with one another because he's talking about things that I was going to say. In fact, we talk about the words veteran superpowers actually appears in our book, Be a Better Leader, because I believe that everybody can use these, but what veterans bring to the table, not only that, but an appreciation for civic duty and civic responsibility. They know what it costs to pay for the right to vote, or for the right to do what first responders ask you to do, those types of things. And David hit on two of my favorite that apply to me the question you asked said in everyday life, be on time and be present. Being on time, in my opinion, is one of the most personally and professionally respectful things that you can do, because the moment you're late, everything else is late for everybody else. And the people that you're leading see you being late and think it's okay. And then when I say being present, I'm not talking about just being physically present. I'm talking about being mentally and emotionally present at whatever you're doing. Because if it's taking your time, then you need to be there for it. Don't go to, I have 7 grandchildren. And so whenever I go to a little league game or a junior high school football game, or like tomorrow night, a basketball game, I'm going and I'm not doing anything else. I'm not taking some other project with me. I'm going to be present mentally, physically, emotionally. Well, you got to do the same thing on the job. And all too often, my experience in the corporate world and also in academia was that wasn't always the case. It wasn't that internal telling yourself, I'm here, I need to be here, or I'm supposed to be here, so let me be on time to do it.
Yeah, right on. Yeah, I think that's probably one of my pet peeves too, is being late, man. I hate being late. If I'm not 15 minutes early, you're late.
Yep.
And so like if we have an appointment or something, I'll be getting ready to go. I'll ask my wife, like, you ready to go? She's like, we have a half an hour. I'm like, yeah. So I'd rather sit in the parking lot for 15 to 20 minutes and then walk in 15 minutes early, then be late. If I'm late, that literally ruins my entire day.
Yeah.
Can you tell us about a time when you witnessed extraordinary courage amongst your comrades?
Very courage. I'm gonna have to marinate on a better story, but I did come up with one just in terms of like responsibility versus authority. I remember we were in Germany. I think I was a lieutenant, and I was part of the advance party, and we were driving, and so we actually drove our buses to go to, I think it was Bosnia. That was my first appointment, and so we drove in buses 24, 36 hours, into the area of operations. And then they have like certain little bases, like staging bases that get closer to the actual, location where we're operating. In that case, that was a peacekeeping one where both sides wanted us there versus peace enforcement, which I think was Kosovo. But so we're on the bus there, and I've got, I'm a lieutenant, right? So there's like the brigade commander, battalion commander, the sergeant major, battalion XO. There's all these cool, big, high-ranking guys. And this staff sergeant E6 gets on the bus, and he's like the base non-commissioned officer in charge. And he gets on there and he goes, "Gentlemen, my name's Staff Sergeant Humpity Hump, and I'm in charge of this base. Do not confuse your rank with my authority." And I was just like, whoa. And that was kind of, Lieutenant, I was just like, all right. So I was like, regardless of what I had in the collar, he was the one calling the shots. And so I was like, okay, I have to understand how you need to fall back and also respect kind of what they're doing in that case. Probably not one of the, story like, Bob grabbed the hand grenade and did some other kind of
Yeah.
things, right? There's a good, more PG story there.
Yeah. That's good.
Yeah. And I know you may be aware of this, but when local promotion boards require, when soldiers are going up for promotion from E3 to E4, E4 to E5, those local promotion boards, they have to have a sergeant major set on them, or there must be a field grade officer set there. When I was a major, we did not have a sergeant major. We had a master sergeant who was on the promotion list, and he was kind of acting as our sergeant major, but that still required one of the two field grade officers in our battalion, either the S3, myself, or the XO, to sit in on the promotion board. So I set in, and the group of senior NCOs, master sergeants and sergeant first classes that were asking questions, I told them, I said, look, I'm not going to ask any questions. And the only time I'm ever going to vote is if you 6 guys can't agree that we're going to promote or not promote the guy, and you tie it 3-3, I'm always going to say no. And that's what I told him. So one young soldier comes in, and he's strack. I mean, this is in the days before we had those roughed up boots so that you were still wearing your black boot. We were an airborne unit. So he's got his boots are shiny enough to shave in, because they look like mirrors, and his uniform is starched, and he looks good, and he sits down, and the sergeants are asking questions. And out of respect, every single time, every soldier that came in, they said, "Sir, do you have any questions?" And I said, "Yes, I do." And they all kind of looked at me. Uh-oh, he's going to ask a question. And so I asked the soldier, I said, "Give me your definition of moral courage." And he's sitting there, and, he's kind of at his position of attention in the chair. And he looked at me and he said, "Sir, it's what you do when you're alone." And I thought, that's cool. And he got promoted to sergeant, and he got moved into the operations section where he worked for me. Not that I had any influence on that.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, but I just love that answer. And when you're looking at courage, it is what you do when you're alone. I mean,
True. Yeah. I love it. Well, before we move on, I just want to thank you guys for coming on, and thank you for your service to our country. So, I mean, between the two of you, there's roughly more than 4 decades of military service, right?
5.
5 decades. All right. Well, my hats off to you guys, man. Thank
50
you.
years between the two of us. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. You guys wrote a book together. How did you guys come to write a book together?
I'll let Bill take that one.
Well, I'm going to start, but I've read a lot of books on leadership. Most of them have 2 formats. One is, hey, here's this long list of traits or characteristics that a great leader has to have. And then they talk about that for the whole book. Well, I've never met anybody that had all of these traits and characteristics. Or the second format is, here's these list of great leaders, Colin Powell, George Patton, Eisenhower, you name it. And so they write a few chapters about each one of these individuals and then do a compare and contrast. But I had been working for years on a definition of leadership. And so a few years ago, we got together, Dave and I and a couple other guys that we were all in Iraq with together. And we were just having a nice weekend, drinking a beer, going out to eat. Our wives are there. We went to the Field Artillery Museum. I mean, we did a few things like that, all stayed at the same hotel. And Dave and I started talking about, hey, we ought to write a book on leadership. And the idea was, the thought process was, well, at first, do we think we can do this? Well, between the two of us, we have 5 college degrees. So the answer was, I think we could figure it out. And then we started talking about what we would do. Well, we went home and I kind of put together an outline, and then Dave reached out and said, hey, we talked about this while we were, all together there. What do you think? And I said, well, let me share the outline with you. And we started writing, and we kept writing, and we kept writing, and we wrote a book about leadership. And really, it's about leadership. And to put it in simple terms, what we came up with was leadership equals people, management equals stuff or resources, and administration equals procedure. So the leader is the one that can change everything, and they're the one that has to take responsibility, and they're the ones that are making the final decisions. You can delegate authority, but you cannot delegate responsibility. Going back to David's story about the sergeant who gets on the bus and says, don't confuse, your rank with my authority, because I've got authority to do whatever I want. Dave?
Yeah, and kind of to add on that, right? My experience was, right, I did 21 years and I retired and went straight into the corporate world. And so, I had a standard for what I expected leadership to be. And so while I'm also transitioning into what the corporate world is and how that moves differently, I'm also trying to understand, looking for that upward, leadership. So for me, it was an opportunity to help people understand, as Bill said, that leadership is people. Because one of the things that really bothered me was, you look at kind of the standard, performance evaluation for a manager in the corporate world. It's business results, stakeholder relations, and teamwork and leadership. A lot of times, the number one metric is business results for that individual manager, how they plugged into the matrix and made it better, not how they made the team better, faster, stronger. And so I was like, I want to equip people that are coming into, eventually into leadership positions, because we posit that everyone will find themselves in leadership situation at some point, whether they want to or not. And that's why kind of the subtitle of it is Be a Better Leader, a Situational Guide. So those two things that Bill talked about, we're weaving that and providing how you can apply these leadership concepts in various situations, at home, at family, at church, at work. And so that's a practical tool that people can use and apply. And so then from my mind, it really morphed from, a manifesto against the leadership that I didn't see into what can we do to provide people to become a better leader, but using our military experience and background, as informing that, but not a military leadership book.
So
Yeah.
we talk about leadership in the book from a whole bunch of different perspectives: trust, communication, volunteerism. We talk about military leadership and those veteran superpowers. We talk about fear of leadership and, getting into that position. But everybody, I don't care who you are, like David said, is a leader. Even if the only thing you're leading is yourself, you're leading.
True. So how long did it take you to write this book?
We did it in let's see, we started, it took us a year?
It took us 11 months to write it, but then we had to figure out how to get it published. That's a different issue. We did get it published. Our second book, we are not going with a publisher. We're not using an editor. We're doing all that stuff ourselves.
Yeah, I was going to ask you how you published it. Did you go through are you going to use like Amazon, KDP, or wherever it is? Or?
Yeah, and our book today, Be a Better Leader, a situational guide, is on Amazon, and we use KDP. It's on Kobo, Books A Million, Ingram Spark, all those kind of places. But this time, as opposed to using a publishing firm to help us do all of that, we're going to do it ourselves. We're just going to go, because now we're in KDP. I mean, our names are both in there. So we're just
Right.
going
Yeah.
to go to KDP and publish the second book ourselves. And we're only going to publish it on probably Amazon and Ingram Spark.
Interesting. Yeah. So I'm on KDP also. I actually wrote a cookbook.
Nice.
Yeah.
What kind? Yeah. Talk to us about the cookbook. Sounds interesting.
So it's the only cookbook in America that saves lives. I will say that. So what I did was I love cooking. Like there's two things that I love to do. I love talking to veterans and I love to cook. And it's even better if we're all at the same table so I could cook for you. So what I did was um, I've been thinking about writing like a short story book, kind of like a Chicken Soup for the Soul. I don't know if you guys remember that book.
Do.
But I wanted to take short stories from my podcast because I've talked to some like very outstanding Americans, and I feel like everybody needs to get in front of these people, right? So I was thinking to myself, how can I get this out to more people? Not everybody listens to podcasts or watches YouTube or whatever. So if I did a compilation in a book, just do a couple of short stories. And then I was thinking, oh man, I always wanted to write a cookbook. So how about if I write a cookbook and in it inside the like next to the recipes, interject some quotes from the podcast. So you might like get marinara and then a Vietnam veteran talking about how he blanked out because he was in a 5-day firefight and has zero recollection of the entire thing. That band actually was just his name's L, and Al Lippart, and he was just the national commander of the VFW. He was on my podcast. Great, awesome gentleman, man. Like his stories were amazing. So I did that, and I just put these quotes all over the uh, the cookbook. When I got my first copy back, I handed it to my wife. I said, "Hey, can you read this? I want to before I give it, the check mark and to send it out to the world. I just want to make sure it's all good." And she came back about an hour later and she handed it back to me and she goes, "This is the saddest cookbook I've ever read in my life." I said, "Sad? It's not sad. Like every single one of these men and women, man, loved what they did, man. Like I don't think they would change it for the world, but yeah, so that's just another way for me to get the word out of these people. And it's also a great way, like if I go to a festival or something, I set up my table, I got a stack of cookbooks. It's a great way to, to uh, conversation piece, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, thanks for sharing. That's good stuff, man.
Yeah,
Love the
it's pretty cool. If you guys shoot me your physical addresses, I'll send you a copy, and I'll also send you my challenge coin for my nonprofit.
Wow.
that. Ooh, nice. Yeah, appreciate it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
heck yeah.
you will you
Shoot
will
me an
get an
email with
email
some
soon.
address.
Yep. You'll get one here shortly.
Heck yeah. So, you guys have a second book coming out? Are you writing it right now? Is it getting close?
Yeah, it is close. It's about trust and leadership. We're trying to, Dave is better with the catchy phrase to put on the cover for the name, to get somebody to buy it. But
Yeah, yeah,
it's about trust and leadership. Um, so yeah, we're there. We wanted it to be shorter. We learned some things writing the first one, so we want the second one to be shorter. We want to be able to print it in black and white because black and white is a lot cheaper than printing in color, because the last one, every graphic, every picture, everything we used was in color. And it costs
yeah,
about 4 times more per page to print in color than it does in black and white. So we're trying to make it more affordable. And if it's shorter, maybe Dave will convince me to read it into the microphone, and it'll be an audio book, which we get asked about a lot. Uh,
yeah.
so yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah, we're hoping to be finished with our own internal editing and all that other kind of stuff in late January, and maybe go to the back to KDP and upload everything and be published by the end of February, something like that.
Awesome. Yeah. So when you send me your addresses, send me all your links too, and I'll put it in the show notes because this show goes out to like 75 countries across the world, 800 and
Wow.
some
Hey.
cities. Yeah, doing it for a while, so it gets out there.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
yeah, I'm
Yeah.
gonna send that tonight or first thing in the morning. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, whenever. And then I usually send my whenever I do mailings, I usually do it on like a Saturday morning. So this Saturday, I'll send out the book and some challenge coins for you guys.
Yeah, no, I
Uh,
appreciate it. Yo,
yeah,
one of the things want to add on what Bill was
yeah,
saying, right? I think,
sure.
back the lessons learned from that first book, right? It was almost like I think someone told us to do a word vomit, right? So it was like get as much on there, and then that thing was pretty hefty. And I think it's also back to the trust and some of those things. Is they're really main themes after because we interviewed like 14 different people from different industries, from healthcare to mega church to former mayor and some other areas and stuff. And those main nuggets of distilled of what's the essence of leadership that people are kind of looking for. Those are things that are kind of like volume 2, volume 3, volume 4, a lot more consumable, especially in this world of sound bites and social media and reels and everything else. And so that's kind of the direction that we're going into. So really excited about that.
Yeah, that's awesome. Is there anything else you want the world to hear about your books
Um,
before we
go
sign off?
yeah, go buy them.
Go buy them. Yes.
Yeah,
Go
go
to
buy them.
Amazon.
Yeah, just go to Amazon. You could type in David McDowell, you can type in Bill Sprayberry, and it'll pop up for you. And you can buy it as an ebook for your Kindle, because I read a lot on Kindle. You can buy it as a
Yeah, so do
paperback,
I.
you can buy it as a hardback, which reminds me, if what you just said, if you will send us your physical mailing address, I'll send you a copy of our book as well. Um,
Awesome. Yeah, appreciate it. Do you guys ever like go to like veteran festivals or anything and just set up a table and sell your books? Get it out that way?
Dave?
I've done a couple of local book fairs and stuff and try to get in there and stuff. So I think that's part of what we've learned throughout the project. Because I think one other thing we talk about is we wrote the book in what 11 months, and I think our goal was get it done, and we were happy. Versus, okay, what's the audience? How are we going to market it? How are we going to do this? And so we've been learning a lot of those things throughout the last year or so. So I think as we get version 2 or book number 2 out, we're really going to apply a lot of those things and really take advantage of, especially where I'm in Columbus, Ohio. We have the National Veterans Memorial and Museum that's here. So we got a lot of veteran specific activities that want to take advantage of. So and that's kind of another thing, right? People talk about what can they do, for a veteran when they say the thank you for your service line, where we go, I don't know, okay, yeah, thanks, man, appreciate it.
Yeah,
It's like do more for your country than just live in it, right? Become a poll
exactly.
worker, go help out, go do whatever, right? Just do something. So that would I think would be the thank you that you do is like be part of this American experience. That we're trying to be a more perfect union, and be part of that effort.
And
I'll get
we've
off my
gone and
soapbox.
spoken yeah, I've gone and spoken at places like the local county emergency management agency. I went and spoke there, and I spoke about leadership, and people bought my book while I was there. I've been to
Yeah.
speak at a couple of veterans type activities and at the local College of Health Education where we actually sell more books. I actually sell more books like that than I do uh, online.
Yeah,
But
so do I. Face to face when I'm out talking. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, that's awesome. I love veterans that write books. I have a little shelf over there. There's probably like 20 different books that veterans have given me that they have written themselves.
we'll make room for another one.
Yeah,
Definitely, yeah. Believe it or not, I even have a Marine that wrote a book, and it's not a coloring book.
not in crayon. Get
Yeah.
us in trouble. You stop.
All right. Well, I want to thank you guys for coming on, and again, thank you for your service. And yes, don't just live in our country, man. Get out there and do something. Our country is not perfect, but is far better than any other country on this planet. I can vouch for that. When I was a young sailor, I sailed 4 different continents. I've seen it. You guys have no idea what you're bitching about. I'm telling you right
Yeah.
now.
There you go. There you go.
All right, guys, let's stick around for a second while we hit the stop button. And again, thanks for everyone for listening. Until next time.